Peter, you're talking here at IPS about the digital native. A lot of people think that's a function of age, and us old people don't get it. You're saying it's not.
No, I don't think it's just a matter of age. And of course, young people have always grown up in a world where digital is normal. But I think what we're now getting into is what I call the new normal, is many people now realize that digital isn't special anymore. It's just a normality. And that has nothing to do with age. I see 40, 50, 60-year-olds being very comfortable with digital technology, and they're now getting into the era where it's not special anymore, it's just a normality.
So what implications does that have for the IPS people, the bankers and so forth?
Well, I think the world of banking is going to be affected tremendously, and certainly financial payments and transactions. Let's be honest, financial transactions have become a commodity. I mean, it used to be something that was also very special, but is now heavily commoditized. And I think what we have to do is change our perspective. It's not about the transactions anymore, just about the payments, but the context of the payments and the information surrounding the payments might be much more relevant, much more interesting, and I think that should be the new focus.
Okay, so do you see that emerging yet, or is that an aim for the future?
It's certainly an aim for the future for the traditional banks, but what you see is the new players and the new entrants. And take a look at the PayPals or the Googles. They don't want to become a bank. I mean, many of these bankers are scared, what if Google becomes a bank? They don't want to become a boring bank. What Google wants to do is understand the customer and the interactions and the context in which you want to do something like a financial transaction. They don't want to execute the financial transaction, but they want to know the customer, understand the customer, and really be relevant for the customer. And I think those customers, those new entrants, certainly get it.
So the banks shouldn't necessarily perceive it as a threat, but more of an opportunity to move into this information-rich field.
I think it is, and I think if you take a look at the two big elements, this fear of loss of control, we won't control the customer anymore, but there's this loss of relevance. And I think, in all honesty, the banks today are too much focused on loss of control. They should be much more worried about loss of relevance.
That's interesting. Now, because it's not a function of age, it's clearly not just a phase the world's going through. This is a continuous revolution. Presumably it's going to accelerate as well.
I think it is. I think if you look at that evolution that we're going through, I think in this whole digital world, we're probably only halfway there. And I think the big flip will happen just after the halfway point. I always compare it to a swimming pool. I think we spent the last 30 years in the shallow end of the pool. We're halfway there, and banks are about to take a deep dive in the deep end of the digital pool.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Peter.
Pleasure.